Alright, coming at you from Lucky Chances here. It's Monday, May 6th. We're at day 2 of the main event tournament here of the Battle of the Bay series. It's a $1,080 buy-in event. First place is guaranteed to be $100,000. We've exceeded that amount to $120,000. And yeah, I didn't vlog any of yesterday, but was fortunate enough to make it through and make it to day 2. This event had 3 starting days, and I played day 1C, which drew 307 players. We were playing down to 38 players to cash. And all 3 days combined pulled in 648 players total. They were paying 12.5% of the field, which is really great. A few fantastic notes about this tournament. We all start with 30K in chips, 40-minute levels, and anyone who makes it to day 2 actually cashes. So we're actually in the money today. I think that's really well done by the Lucky Chances tournament team of Jimbo, Kong, and Lawrence. They do a fantastic job of putting together these tournaments, and this main event was just great structure. So super happy about that. I think a lot of the players were pleased as well. All right, so jumping into the poker, I got seated around 10 a.m. yesterday when I registered, and to steal a line from Norman Chad's 2003 World Series of Poker, I was met by
a murderer's row of great players in seats 1, 2, and 3. Howard Lederer, Scotty Wynn, and Phil Ivey.
Yeah, and while they weren't all sitting in a row, this has got to be, I think, one of the tougher lineups, particularly because there were so many players, and to have them all congregate on one table. Many of you Bay Area watchers will know, but I had guys like Ray and Keith who are very good 5-10 plus cash game players. I had Joe Wynn. He was a winner of a WPT event a couple years ago. I think it was a WPT Shooting Star. And of course, I've mentioned this player before. I had Relly to my right, who is a well-known tournament grinder in the Bay Area. So not the easiest of table draws. And we were also on table 1, which is essentially the final table of the event. And so there was really going to be no chance to move off of this table. So just had to weather the storm and try to play through a pretty tough starting table. All right, so we picked things up at the 500 1K 1K level. I built my stack to about 100K. There's an early position raised to 2,800. Middle position player calls. I'm in the big blind with King 8 offsuit. I'm getting a pretty good price here, given that there's a big blind ante, so I make the call. So we went through raise to a flop of 4, 7, 8, 2 spades. Checks the middle position. He puts out a bet of 4,000, leaving about another 20,000 back. And I decided to put max pressure here. I raise it to 25,000. Early position player folds, and middle position doesn't think too long, and he stacks off. He turns over pocket 10, so in a bit of rough shape here. The turn brings a 3 of hearts, and the river brings a queen of diamonds. So no help on the turn and river, and I double this player up. All right, this next hand still playing the 500 1K 1K level. I have about 70K to start this hand. There's an early position limp, a middle position limp, and I'm on the button with ace queen offsuit. I decide to raise it to 4,500. The early position player jams it for about 12,000. Middle position folds, and I'm up against middle position's queen jack offsuit. So in a pretty good spot to pick up some chips here. The flop comes out ace 10 4, so flop top pair feeling really good here. The turn brings a king, so not a good spot now. Drawing to just a chop, and the river brings a 3 of hearts. So lose this one, double up another player, and starting to slide at this point in the tournament. All right, we're playing 6, 12, 12. I started this hand with about 60K. I'm in early position with ace jack of clubs, and I raised it to 2,500. Middle position and small blind call. We go 3 ways to a flop of a good one. It's a ace jack 6, flop top 2 pair on this board. Checks to me, I bet 4K, and both players make the call. The turn brings a deuce of spades, so it completes the front door flush. Checks over to middle position. He bets out 7K. Small blind makes the call, and I make the call as well. The river brings a 4 of hearts, so I don't fill up here. It checks again to middle position. He tanks for quite a while, and he puts out a bet of 10K. Small blind tanks for a while as well, and he makes the call. And I actually find the fold button for a change, and I toss it in. Middle position turns over pocket 6s for a set, and small blind turns over 8, 10 of spades for a flush. So yeah, that spade on the turn had looked like a bad card, but it was actually a good card because I probably would have lost my entire stack to the middle position player with pocket 6s and would have got knocked out of the tournament as well since he had covered me. But as it turns out, good spade on the turn, still in the tournament. So yeah, these 3 hands were right after the last break that you were able to register. So a little bit of a slide, not ideal way to hop back in the tournament, but we pick things up at the 8, 16, 16 level. There's an under the gun raise to 3,500. There's 3 callers. I'm in the big blind with ace 9 offsuit. I've got about 32,000 to start this hand, and I'm getting a pretty good price. Obviously got the big blind ante in there as well, so decide to call. We go 5 ways to a flop of ace 9 5 2 hearts. So flop a really good hand here. It checks to under the gun, the original raiser. He puts out a bet of 4K. The button calls, and I think the only real decision here is to go with it. So I jam all in for 30K. Under the gun re-jams for about 50K, and the button fold. We're up against under the gun's ace jack offsuit, so in good shape here to double up. And the turn brings a 6, and the river brings a 10 of hearts. The front door flush does get there. The button actually did have a flush draw. He would have got there. So happy to have gotten the stacks in, happy to have gotten protection from under the gun reshoving and get a really needed double up at this particular juncture of the tournament. All right, this next time we're playing the 1-2-2 level. It folds to the button, he raises it to 5K. He's got about 25K back. And I'm in the big blind with around 80K or so, and I have ace jack offsuit, a really premium hand in these button blind type scenarios. So I decide to put it all in, and he snap calls. He turns over ace 3 offsuit. The flop comes 5, 6, 9 all spades, and he does have the 3 of spades in his hand, so not a good flop here. The turn brings a 4 of clubs, so he picks up additional equity, and the river is a deuce of spades. So he gets there, he doubles up, and I lose a good chunk of my chips in this hand. All right, this next hand we're playing 1-2-2. I've got about 50K to start this hand. I think we're 7-handed, and it folds to me in middle position, and I make a light open with ace 6 offsuit to, I think, 4,500. Not a hand that I normally play, but the players in the blinds were playing pretty straightforward, so I figured I felt comfortable doing kind of a raise full type situation, and it turns out that the small blind decides to call my raise. He started this hand with about 30K, and so we go heads up to a flop of ace jack 5 rainbow. Good flop for me. He checks it. I put out a bet of 4K, and he makes the call. The turn brings a 7 of hearts, and it goes check check, and the river brings a 9 of spades. He checks it again. I feel pretty confident that I've got the best hand here, and using the pot control on the turn by checking back, I think might earn me a good value bet here on the river, so that's what I do. I put out a bet of 7K, hoping to target a hand like king jack, queen jack. He thinks it through for a while, and he makes the call. I turn my hand over, and it's good. All right, this next time we're playing 15, 3, and 3. I've got about 90K to start this hand. Folds to me the cutoff with king, queen offsuit, and I put out a raise to 7K. The button jams all in for about 30K. Folds back to me, I think. Pretty easy call here, so that's what I do. He turns over a pretty rough hand for my hand. He's got ace-king offsuit. The flop comes 3, 4, 7, so no help here, but get a really nice card on the turn. It comes a queen of hearts, and just need to fade 3 more outs heading into the river, and I do. It comes a 3 of hearts, and so get a little bit of a nice suck out here to pick up some chips. All right, so fast forward things to the 3-6-6 level here. We've got 40 players left, and 38 players get paid, so essentially on the money bubble here. And this is the last interesting hand that I'll share, and it involves one that I do not play. We are 7-handed on our table. There's an under the gun raise to 13K, and Relly in the small blind jams for about 240K. I'm in the big blind with pocket queens, and I've got 120K. So this is a pretty clear call-off spot, of course, but with 40 players left, as mentioned, and 38 making into the money, so just 2 away, essentially, from the bubble. Some ICM implications, the fact that it's Relly, a very good player, jamming it all in there. I'm not thinking that he's going to be doing it too light in this point of the tournament, and having the relatively recent painful memory of bubbling at Run It Up Reno, I decide to make the fold. And under the gun folds as well, and Relly was kind enough to turn over pocket king. So dodge a huge bullet here, and approximately 20 minutes later, the bubble does burst. A short stack gets it all in with pocket aces on one of the other tables, and the other player sucks out. So sneak into the money. All right, we're gonna pick up the tournament in about half an hour here, but I want to take this opportunity to mention another poker-related topic that I've touched on a little bit on this channel, and that's on the topic of some studying and working on your game off the table. And so I do some work definitely on the strategic part of the game in terms of studying, but another really important component, I think, to being successful or finding some success in poker is to work on your mental game. And I do a decent amount of that off the table as well. I've always had a relatively good mental game, but it wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I really started to take that to another level. And there's a pretty well-known poker mind coach in the poker industry named Elliot Roe. He's worked with some really high-profile names like Fedor, Matt Berkey, just to name a couple. And he started to put out this option for, I guess, your more average player called the Poker Mind Coach Academy. I started being part of that in late 2017, and it's essentially a monthly webinar that has 3 components that talk through a variety of different mental components to help with your game. And he ultimately transitioned this to the A-Game Masterclass in late 2018. And so that turned out to be a 6 to 8 week mental prep course around poker. Went through it, learned a lot from it, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, Elliot has partnered with Phil Galfond and his Run It Once training site to offer the A-Game Masterclass exclusively through that platform. So I highly recommend it. I think it's super beneficial. I won't be able to do it justice on this video about how beneficial it was, but I did do a conversation with Elliot for his podcast recently. I'll put a link in the description box below if you want to listen in on that. The second part of that interview is with another class member who's found some success on the tournament tables as well. And he also released another podcast speaking with 2 other players that went through the course. So I would say check both of those out and decide for yourself. But I think it's definitely a course that has a lot of benefits to it. If you want to drop some comments below, I'm happy to answer them. If you want to shoot me a direct message, I'm happy to carry forth that conversation in that manner as well. So maybe you can find some benefits for yourself. Okay, and so with that, going to hop back in the tournament. Let's see, we're running up. All right, the dream will have to wait for another day, unfortunately. All right, let's run through a few hands here. Playing 3-5-5, folds to me on the cutoff with Queen Jack of clubs. I raise it to 12K. Gets to the big blind. He's one of the bigger stacks on the table. He's got 350K. He makes the call. Go heads up to a flop of Jack 4-4. Checks it to me, good flop. So I see bet it for 10K. He folds. So take this one down, chip up a little bit. Another hand here. There's an under the gun 1 limp, and I'm under the gun +2 with pocket nines. I jam it in there for 82,000. Folds back to the limper. He tanks for a little while and ultimately decides on a fold. He said he had some picture cards and he didn't want to gamble, so take this one down as well. All right, we're playing 3-6-6 now. Under the gun +1 opens it to 12K. I'm under the gun +2 with 2 red aces. Really good spot here. I've only got 87K, so I shove it in there. Folds back to the initial raiser, and he jams all in as well. He has pocket queen. So yeah, very fortunate spot here, and the board runs out 10-5-4, 6, 9. So knock this player out, he hit slightly less than me, and essentially get the full double up. So feeling pretty good, building some momentum to this point around 180, 90K or so. A couple hands later, folds to me in the cutoff. I've got pocket kings. I raise it to 13K. Gets over to the big blind. He's the big stack. He's got about 600 or 700K. He 3-bets it to 50K, and I decide to jam it all in there for about 190K. He snap calls with ace king offsuit. So a pretty good spot here, looking to double up, and the flop comes queen 10-6. Good fade there. Turn is unfortunately a jack, so he makes Broadway, drawn to 3 outs to chop, and the river is a queen. So get knocked out in this fashion, pretty rough way to get knocked out, and that's the end of this tournament. Definitely hard not to think about the what ifs a little bit here. Had I doubled up to roughly 400K, and that would have been a pretty good stack to play with at blinds being 3-6-6. So that wasn't to be the case though, and get knocked out in a pretty unfortunate fashion, but happy to make a deep run overall, as always in these tournaments. 68th place, good enough for slightly better than a min cash of $2,000. So 1,080 buy-in, profit 920. So yeah, pretty satisfied, I guess, overall with the way I played. Obviously not happy with the result, but gonna keep plugging away, gonna keep working on the game on and off the table. Not too far away from World Series of Poker, just a month out, and a lot of different events to be played there. So excited for that opportunity coming up. Gonna take obviously some time off from tournaments the rest of the month. Gonna be in Hong Kong and Macau and grind some cash throughout. But yeah, next time I see you all will be from Hong Kong and then the World Series of Poker.